What if I told you that they weren't the greatest? That a people would fail to protect their greatest natural resource? That sometimes it is a matter of likes and death? That no one can outrun the spew? What if I told you he's the only true chosen of the dark gods? That you can heal all wounds with fire? That the faction no one could stop tragically was? What if I told you that cycle charging was easy? 30 units, 30 stats, 30 years. Creative Assemblies critically acclaimed, 30 for 30. Presented by Coda. Nah, I'm not actually gonna do all 30. What's going on, guys? This is Coda, and today I want to go over some of the brand new Regiment of Renown units that Creative Assembly is dropping on August 10th. For me personally, Regiments of Renown are one of the coolest and most unique aspects of the Total War Warhammer games. I think they let players get creative and add a ton of variety and diversity to their builds. But first, a couple of quick words. Guys, first of all, thank you and welcome to everyone new who has subscribed in the past couple of days. I'm super humbled and honestly just pretty surprised. I have no idea why or how so many people found my channel, but I'm stoked that you're here, and yeah, just thank you. My goal is to create content that's either unique or interesting, or just fun and entertaining around Warhammer. It won't all be these types of videos, like lists or stat breakdowns. There will definitely be some different variety. But yeah, we'll see. And we'll have to do some fun shit and giveaways and stuff like that. Like a real channel does. But let's get into it. There are tons of great units in this release, more than I could hit in one video. So I'm just going to go over and analyze my 10 or so favorites and talk a little bit about why I think they'll be good or some interesting stats about them. And for the record, when I make these, I'm not making a statement about anything being over or underpowered. I'm just picking out shit that I find interesting. First up are the Sons of Goros, the Regiment of Renowned Centaurs with great weapons. The Sons of Goros may be the biggest game changer in the entire Beastmen roster. It's tough to say because the Beastmen got so many good ROR units. In my opinion, they definitely walked away from this deal as one of the clear winners as a faction. But the Sons of Goros in particular could have the most impact in terms of actually mixing it up, because they're creating a brand new threat for opponents to consider when picking an army to fight against the Beastmen. That's because their armor stat of 70, which is the third highest in the Beastmen roster and double that of their regular cav units, will require your enemies to account for the possibility of dealing with armored cav, to some extent. For a long time, you didn't need to worry about your cav having armor piercing when playing against the Beastmen, only that, they had enough armor to withstand the Centaurs' pretty brutal offensive output themselves. But when the Sons of Goros arrive, I'm not so sure that Reiksguard are gonna cut it. It will definitely be an interesting one to test out for sure. Additionally, they get the much needed magic damage and provide the 20% guardianship ward save to nearby characters. But it's tough to definitively crown the Sons of Goros as the quote best addition to the Beast Moms when the next unit up, the Butchers of Cockengard, are also in the discussion, and I'm gonna butcher that name, the Butchers of Cockengard. Anyway, these pissed off mommy Minotaurs are the Regiment of Renowned Minotaurs with shields, and they are utterly terrifying. Literally as in utters, but also literally as in the terror mechanic. The Butchers are the only non-character unit in Total War Warhammer 1 that have both regeneration and terror. Two of the absolute best rules in the game in my opinion. The Butchers also make up for the Beastmen's current reliance on Giants or Cygors for terror. I'm pretty sure because of that this unit will see some degree of use. How heavy or light is, dependent on the cost. But personally, I can't wait for the Razorgore Minivan Chariot DLC. Next up are the Mist Stalkers. These Regiment of Renowned Famir Norscan monsters have the highest armor stat and highest weapon strength stat of any unit that can currently Vanguard deploy. They're also currently the only terror-causing unit that can Vanguard deploy. And they'll be the only unit with armor sundering that can Vanguard deploy. So yeah, I can't really sugarcoat it, they do seem very good, but they're also among the slowest units that can Vanguard, so it's not all easy mode. Because even though the Miststalkers have the stats to absolutely fuck up most units by themselves, They have a speed liability that could see them caught out of position and ganged up on by faster enemy vanguard. I don't really know. I'm not in the Norsca nerf camp by any means, but I wouldn't be surprised if their stats changed at some point, especially because on the Total War blog they didn't list some of these guys' rules. I think that this unit looks a little bit more powerful than even the War Mammoths. I'm not super concerned about the War Mammoths. Scrub Crusher isn't even on my list. Hammer of the Witch's son. But in reality, it's hard to put the Miststalkers into context without knowing the extent that Vanguard will play for Norsca as a whole, like as a faction. Although based on their other Regiments of Renown, we know that they have at least 3 total units that can form a pretty scary little Vanguard force. But fear not, because the Chaos Gods don't only look upon Norsca in the coming release. It looks like they're leaving their marks on the Warriors of Chaos after all. Well, at least Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh are. The Demon Spew, Weird Spawn, and Mirror Guard are all going to be potent additions to the Chaos roster, not to mention some incredibly cool models. But in my opinion, the biggest game changer of them all would have to come from the biggest game changer himself, Tzeentch. The Weird Spawn will be the fastest unit in the game with the Armor Sunder ability, which is the one that lowers enemy armor by 30 for 10 seconds after getting hit. The Weird Spawn are putting Chaos Spawn back on the map. I mean, you know, Chaos Spawn you actually have to pay for. Let's be real, nobody took Chaos Spawn. Not only because it felt wrong paying 1,000 gold for a unit that another faction basically got for free, but also because they weren't particularly great at anything, like they weren't specialized. Good damage, but no AP. Decent health, but no armor. But after receiving the gifts of Tzeentch, the Weird Spawn will have the physical resistance or ward save that defines so many Tzeentch units on the tabletop. And instead of giving them the ability to cut through armor, they were given the ability to sunder it off. They're going to be an absolutely brutal combo with Forsaken, for sure, who they also happen to be quick enough to keep up with. While I do love the Weird Spawn, I don't think that they're my favorite Chaos Regiment of Renown in this release. Like the Beastmen, the Warriors of Chaos got dealt a pretty good hand here. And you know a unit is going to be good when they need to cut its model number in half in order to balance it out. Actually, is that a first? It might be. So next up are the Swords of Chaos, who will be the first armor-piercing cav option available to the Warriors of Chaos faction. They're the bodyguards of Arcane himself, so they appropriately do fire damage in melee combat as well, which is another stat that makes them unique on the roster. But perhaps the coolest trait that they bring to the table is one that we don't know a ton about yet, which is the Apocalyptic Charge. This special rule will trigger a map-wide buff to speed and charge speed for your Chaos army when the Knights get within 70 meters of an enemy. How large of a buff and for how long I do not know, but this could be big. They also have the Guardianship ability mentioned earlier, granting physical resistance to nearby characters. But what about the good guys? The noble Bretonnians and their reclusive forest neighbors. Honestly, out of the 5 factions, Bretonnia may have benefited the least from their new Regiments of Renown. But I guess that's okay, right? Because they were already very good, they're still very good regardless. I feel like they got more anti-large and magic damage like everyone else did, but they were the one faction that didn't really need it, right? I do like the Knights of the Lionhearted, and they are the first unit to have the Encourage aura since Aspiring Champions, but they're an anti-large magic damage dealing cav unit. And I don't think that they're going to be dethroning the Pegasus Knights anytime soon. Could be wrong. Rumor mill says that they might be the strongest cav unit in the game, so never know. CA OP, please nerf. But really, I guess my pick for a game changer unit for Bretonnia would have to be the Companions of Quenelle, the Questing Knights. Mostly because they look great, and it kind of bugs me that vanilla Questing Knights don't have helmets, but also because they're getting the same 20% physical resist that so many of the good Bretonnian cav units already have. Only you can't get around it with fire damage because they also have a fire resistance. But it's tough to call them a game changer when the original unit was already very good. It looks like they're getting a buff to their armor as well, from 80 to 90, but I'm not sure if this is for them specifically or a stat update for all Questing Knights. I think at the end of the day, I'm just a little bit bummed that Hippogriff Knights didn't get a Regiment of Renown. Like, this was their chance, this was their big break, right? They were gonna jump from 60 to 100 armor, get the Blessing of the Lady, and be the first flying unit, you know, immune to hexes and nets. But then at the last minute, someone at Games Workshop hit the veto button and instead we got mounted yeoman archers. with hats? Nah. I mean, it would have been cool. Hippogriff Knights need something for sure. And as far as the Azrai go, the models look incredible. I think the Firebark Elders are a great idea. Really creative in both lore and gameplay. Like, look at those models, I love the art direction. But I know that there's an argument about them making tree healing blobs even stronger because they negate the fire weakness of the tree kin around them, or you know, the tree units around them. But if I'm being honest, and I have no data to back this up, this is just a hunch, but I think that this is a precursor for the exact opposite. I think that these guys are the makeup present to the Wood Elves for when Earthblood gets the mega nerf. Like, we all know it's coming. We're just getting the present before the breakup. The real game changer for the Azrai are the Hawkeyes of Chakira, the Regiment of Renown Way Watchers. These guys basically cause terror from afar, because they aren't doing it up close in those yellow tights. Not literally terror, of course, but they're now one of the only... Yeah, let me check. Yeah, I think that they're now only one of 2 total units in Game 1 that cause Discourage, which is the negative 16 leadership debuff, from range at least. The only other being the Dwarf Goblobber, and if that's any indication of how good they are, then it's a pretty good sign. Combine this with their Smoke Bomb, their ability to fire and run, and their faster reload time, and we have maybe, you know, talks about Goat Skirmish Unit for the entire game on our hands. If given the proper micro, so definitely not coming from me. The only problem is, you know, Way Watchers are already very expensive units, and unfortunately the Hawkeyes didn't get any more ammo for whatever their added cost is going to be. I also like the Winterheart Guard if for no other reason than they look sick and their lore is cool, but I'm kind of on the fence about them. Like, don't get me wrong, Unbreakable is an incredibly good rule, but they put it on the one unit that pretty much never broke anyway, right? Like, regular Eternal Guard have great melee defense and leadership. But yeah, obviously it's still nice, it's still going to be useful. They'll be like a super uber version of Sigmar's Sons. I would have loved to seen this trait on like a Dryad unit or something like that, like a wintry Dryad unit. That would be super cool. And special shout out to that Wildwood Ranger unit. You know you're insignificant when you get forgotten not once, but twice on live stream, so there you have it, guys. Stats and units from the new Regiments of Renown. Not an exhaustive list by any means, but certainly some fantastic ones that I didn't get to, but hopefully this was both informative and entertaining. Until next time, this is Coda. Thank you for listening and take care.